evening and welcome to Daily Politics on Trust TV, your platform for in-depth conversations on politics, policy and governance. I am Hamza Idris. Tonight, we take a look at the deteriorating security situation in Nigeria, with current surge prompting apprehension among citizens and elected representatives. Recent Boko Haram attacks on military formations and killings of military personnel, and the onslaught of the Lakurawa terror group in Kebbi and other parts of the Northwest, in addition to communal and cultural hostilities, have illicit fears as possible, revolved by helpless Nigerians. On Daily Politics tonight, we ask, have the nation's authorities failed in their key responsibility of protecting the citizens, who should be responsible in accounting for the trillions of taxpayers' money meant to address the problem? And to help us unpack these issues, we have in the studio Dr. Musa Salmanu, a retired wing commander of the Nigerian Air Force, and then Destiny Enabulele, a public affairs analyst and a former lawmaker. Thank you for coming to the program.
Yes, it's good to be here.
Commander, welcome to the studio.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me.
Welcome. First, here are some tidbits. The Defense Headquarters has attributed the recent spate of violent attacks on communities in Benue, Plateau and other parts of the country to foreign herders who have infiltrated Nigeria to porous borders. Speaking at a press briefing in Abuja on Thursday, the Director of Defense Media Operations, Marcus Kangwe, said the identities and languages of the assailants have helped security forces confirm that many of the attackers are not Nigerians. He said, when you hear them talk in some instances, you'll be able to decipher whether these people are from Nigeria or not. He added that apart from their language, their hair also showed they are not Nigerians. He said whenever they arrest the herders and terrorists, from the way they speak, it is clear that they are not from Nigeria. Kangwe remarks come amid growing concerns over recurrent attacks, which have left hundreds dead and thousands displaced in recent months. Recall that the governor of Benue State, Hyacinth Alia, had earlier stated that foreign herders were exploiting the ECOWAS protocol of free movement to cross borders and unleash terror on local communities. He noted that while some Nigerians have also been caught in the act, the most violent incidents are largely driven by infiltrators. And then the Federal High Court in Abuja heard on Thursday that the broadcast made by the leader of the proscribed indigenous peoples of Biafra, Nnamdi Kanu, led to the killing of a former senior special advisor to ex-President Goodluck Jonathan, Ahmed Gulak, and others. An official of the Department of State Service said this as he resumed his testimony as the second prosecution witness in the ongoing terrorism trial of Kanu. The witness, who said he was part of the DSS team that investigated the complaint made against Kanu by the then Attorney General of the Federation, Abubakar Malami, said the defendant's broadcast also led to the killing of a retired judge, Justice Stanley Naji, and an intending military couple, Sergeant Audu Lucas and then Private Glory Machi. The witness said Kanu, in one of his broadcasts, ordered his followers to enforce a sit at home in all southeastern states, and as a result, many people who went out of their houses on that day were killed. He said investigation revealed that Sergeant Lucas and Private Matthew were not only killed by those who were enforcing Kanu's sit-at-home order, but they were also beheaded. The witness said investigation also revealed that before killing Gulak, those enforcing the sit-at-home directive by Kanu blamed him, that is Gulak, for coming out on a day their leader asked people not to go out of their homes. He added that from their investigation, they found out that Kanu founded IPOP and ESN, which is the armed wing of IPOP, and that he was the leader of both groups. Yes, and we'll take a short break. When we return, the conversation commences. Don't go away. Yes, once again, welcome to Daily Politics on Trust TV. As I said earlier, we have in the studio Destiny Enabulele, a public affairs analyst and a former lawmaker, and Dr. Musa Salmanu, a retired wing commander of the Nigerian Air Force. I'm also a politician, in a way. So I should start with, of course, maybe wing commander. Our tidbit. The defense spokesman today said, from their findings, foreign herders. And I think when you say herder, anybody can be herder. It can be Hausa, it can be Fulani, it can be Igbo, it can be
Benin.
It can be Benin, it can be any other person. That they are actually behind most of the attacks that we are witnessing. Are you in agreement with that? You served in the military.
Well, so he has more information than I do have now. So if he says it's foreign herders, then I will take it as such foreign herders. But then that makes it, excuse me, that makes it even more worrisome, because that means we're having a kind of invasion, and we're fighting either foreign mercenaries or foreign elements that are kind of invading our space. So it takes a different dimension, because if it's, let's say, Nigerians within the Nigerian territory, then it's a kind of internal fight, and you're just a kind of asymmetric warfare and insurgency and so on and so forth. But when it have external elements, the question now begins: are they just individuals that are coming on their own? Are they sponsored by other hostile nations around? Is there an international dimension to this? Is there a kind of conspiracy to invade, and so on and so forth? So that does not lessen the worry. In fact, it makes it worse. It intensifies the issue. But having said all that, whether they are Nigerian or foreign, the whole idea is that if they are identified, the containment is the issue. How do you contain that? How do you curtail it? How do you ensure that they do not wreak the havoc that they are doing at the moment? So identifying where they come, very important. But the second most important thing is to ensure that they do not come in, and those that are here are engaged in a way that you eliminate the threat.
Meaning somebody is not doing his work, destiny. Because look at what Governor Ali said. Benue is in North Central, but he said in his state, they also come to realize that there is this foreign invaders in Benue. It could be understood maybe if they say, okay, it's in Borno, which shares border with Chad, Cameroon, and then up to the Sahel, Sudan and whatever. But then in Benue, where did we get it wrong?
Well, let me first of all appreciate trust for this opportunity to lend my voice on the issues befalling us as a nation. You see, before we came on stage, we had learned on certain issues. We lacked the political will to drive the process. And before now, there have been a series of budgets as it relates to security and fighting security. Another question we need to ask ourselves: are they being deployed for the purpose? There are insinuations left, right, center that, quote unquote, that the presiding officers, they are up on a spending spree across outside the shores of this country.
When you say presiding officers, maybe National Assembly.
No, those that are presiding over the various security formations. Generals, just name them, IG, DIG. We have had cases where generals are buying duplexes in Dubai, in America, in Kenya, and what have you. See, the issue is simple. Till the day we summon the courage to fight the process, definitely we will get answer. The primary aim of any government, it is to protect life and welfare, protect life and security and property and of every Nigerian, of any citizen. But since we have decided to play politics with our lives, what we order for is what we got. So for us, in getting it, all hands must be on deck. We must continuously engage the people. The issue of talk and no action. We have had issues. Let me try to narrow it down to this present dispensation. That the issue of sounding reformations in economy, sounding reformations in security, where there are no commensurate sound to attack or to address. Good and fine. They've been able to identify that these persons quote unquote, the Boko Haram, they are not citizens of this country. We all know that our borders are very porous. What are our immigrations? What are they doing? The customs. Go to Benin, Lagos Road. At every pole, you see the custom. The issue at hand is not a child's play. Let them leave our cities. Let them leave our city centers. Let them go to our borders
to do the real
thing. I have not advocated that all these generals, let them leave Abuja city, let them leave Benin city, let them leave Lagos center and go to the various. Let them move their offices to these borders. We'll get answer for the questions that we yearn for.
Well, Commander, I remember around 2016, I was a reporter then in the Northeast. Something happened around the Mandara Mountains. The Nigerian troops succeeded in killing some of these so-called invaders. And from what we gathered, including some pictures, just the description given by the defense spokesperson. I know I wrote the report. We also use it in the Daily Trust, but it was dismissed because I also remember that our then Deputy Editor-in-Chief interviewed the then Chief of Army Staff. This was around 2027. To greater extent, this claim was dismissed that you have people who have light skin and all that, so we mistook them for many white men or whatever. Now, just 2 days ago, the representative of Marte, which is around Kalabalgi, a border town between Borno and Cameroon, Zainab Gimba, she also said when there was an attack on a military formation there, she went there on condolences and she visited the military formation. The presiding officer told her that some of these people were white men. This was the language he used. This is an elite. So it's not like me or any other person here. This is a military person telling a House of Rep member that some of the attackers were white men. What will you say on this?
So let me start with the issue of conceptual, maybe definition. Down here when we say white men, it could mean Caucasians, it could mean, our white men starts from somebody with light complexion up to Caucasians and so on and so on. So in using the term white men or white women or white persons, we have to be slightly careful in that. But having said that, the Sahel, which we're part of, towards the Maghreb generally, you find out that we have people that are light-skinned. Once you go up from towards even the northernmost part of Borno, Chad,
and that's where this House of Rep member
has, and so on, up towards this. So there is no doubt there is porosity of our border. And this is even complicated by the fact of the ECOWAS protocol. Even though, to be fair to ECOWAS, there are provisions for you to curtail that if there is grounds of suspicion that these people are coming in. So the freedom of movement is not, it has its own, it has some limitations when there are issues of security and so on and so forth. So we can't fully or wholly blame ECOWAS protocol of movement, free movement of goods and persons. Having said that, then what it says, it's not surprising then if there are people that are coming from the Sahel down towards Maiduguri or towards northeast, because it has been established long ago that those areas, there is affinity in culture, there is affinity in so many things, and a lot of people do not see those borders. There is free movement and so on and so on.
They don't see the borders as impediment.
They don't see the borders as impediment. So it will not be surprising. I don't have that assurance. However, since the defense spokesman has said so,
yes,
then it's not surprising that there are people from the side. I remember those people are Tofan. Is it from the Algerian crisis since around 1991? Or is it the one that we had in parts of Mali and we still have from, part of Niger, part of Chad? So we are surrounded by neighbors, or even Central Africa. We are surrounded, in fact, you can even go up to Libya.
Yes.
So we are surrounded by neighbors that have had this type of conflict for decades. So it's not surprising that if we have infiltration of that, what we should do is to ensure that we adopt measures. Since we should have adopted measures to ensure that that does not come to our doorsteps. If it's next door to our neighbors, then we know that if we don't do
the needful,
it's going to affect us. Now that it's affecting us, what we have to ensure is that we're able to curtail that, stop the people from coming, stop those that are already here, make sure that you engage them. And when I say engage here, I mean kinetic, using force to neutralize them. And also, but beyond all that, we have to start addressing the root causes of all this. Now, you spoke about herder farmer crisis, or the herders in Benue. If you go to the northeast, it's the Boko Haram. If you come to northwest, it's
they call them
bandits or Lakurawa or whatever name they go to. If you go to the southeast, there are also
agitators or whatever.
Agitation.
Then you have the militants in this.
Yes. So it means that every part of Nigeria is having one form of security challenge or the other. Now that means whereas what we are facing or what we are addressing sometimes is actually even the symptoms. How come so the symptoms is differentiated by the geography. Now those in the northeast, for example, you would think that it's extremism because that's what the geography there or the place there, and those in the northwest, you say okay, they are bandits because they are farmers there and so on and so forth. The same thing with the north central and the south. Now, so that what it means is that there are underlying factors that
must be addressed.
If they are not addressed, all the symptoms will keep cropping up. It's just like the type of dressing. The person from the north or something, for cultural reason or the other, is going to dress with a cap and so on. But all you're doing is dressing.
Yeah.
Now, so what we have to look beyond the surface is what are the root causes. And for a long time, even the military has, there have been political talks, but even the military has identified that. The Chief of Defense Staff at some point clearly stated that only good governance can stop this. Bullets alone cannot stop.
Okay, we'll come to that, sure. But then maybe a bit on our second tidbit, because already we have started the discussion of the program. Now, can you say the federal government is actually sincere in handling the Nnamdi Kanu's case? This is where we are today now, talking about his broadcast instigated some attacks in the South. I know that his case, has been amended. I don't know the number of times. Initially, it was treason, right?
Yeah.
It comes about terrorism.
Yeah.
And all that. Maybe could this be part of also the terrorism thing that his the radio Biafra, whatever, was the reason why many people have been killed in the South?
Let me again say this. He said something just now. Talked about the issue of sincerity on the part of the elites. That's the ruling class. Again, you look at it. How sincere are we in nipping it on the bud? As I speak, there are unemployment across the length and breadth of this country. You see, a mind that refuses to work during the daytime, you cannot stop that mind from working during the night. It's easy. So these persons are now becoming a willing tool at the snap of finger. So for us, we must try everything humanly possible to make sure that our youth are gainfully engaged.
Yeah.
So the issue of Nnamdi Kanu, for me, we must look at it dispassionately. Because for some of us, it's not beyond what is happening in the Southeast. I'm going to be very frank. When the Good Luck issue, when it was killed here and there, some of us, we followed it up.
The
issue during the last the Buhari's admin. So for us, they must look at it and try to see how they can pacify the Southeast people. You must incorporate them. What are they talking? What are their agitations? As I rightly said, we can't just be addressing the symptom. We must get to the root cause. The issue, if you decide to sentence Nnamdi Kanu today by firing squad or by whatever this thing, that will not stop the fire in the southeast.
Should he be released? Are you saying that he should be released?
I'm not saying that he should be released. What I'm saying, we must address the root cause. What are the agitations?
The agitation. But
what are the agitations?
They are calling for secession. I don't know.
No, why are they calling for secession?
Okay, what is it?
Why are they calling for secession? It's because of their exclusion. We must be very frank. Their exclusion from the national affairs.
All right. Is there any part of the country that has not been excluded when you look at the configuration of Nigeria now? And should that be enough reason now for calling for secession, for taking arms against the state and all that?
Well, definitely the issue of secession is not especially violent, in a violent manner. It's not something that anyone will...
no government maybe.
No, and no government would sit idly to look at that happening. Because, like we rightly said in the beginning, that every government has a responsibility to protect the lives and properties and ensure the well-being and the welfare of its citizens. Now, you can't ensure the welfare, the well-being and protection of citizens if you allow people to take up arms against the state and in a violent way request for... So the political space gives room for contestation of ideas and so on. And people form alliances, people form partnerships, all in a bid to ensure that they get access, whether that access could be political or to the structure and so on. So what I would call more is that we must understand more about the political dynamics and how to go about politics. When people lost, it's not the end of the game. People must look at, okay, are there realignments? What made us to lose in the past? Is there a way we can engage other groups? Because politics is about interest, and you have particular groups with particular interest. So you have to seek alignment and realignment and so on until you achieve that goal which you are looking for. So yes, politics can be open. Politics you can feel secluded or excluded in politics. But I tell you that there is always a strategy that gets you back to the main group. If you're only able to open your minds to also other ideas and so on. Now, having said that, the issue of Nnamdi Kanu, look, when there is mass atrocities, like what is happening in the northeast, or when there is or northwest or something, justice must take place, because for every crime that is committed, there are people that are aggrieved, and it's a responsibility of the government to ensure that justice is done. Whereas you can ignore, or to a large extent, if there's mass atrocities, you cannot punish everyone, but the major elements, that's the organizers, the leaders, the drivers, the leadership of those violence must be brought to book, or must be brought to justice. And so the only problem here that I'm seeing is that our the justice system is too slow, in the instance that people will start forgetting what are even the offenses. People will start, when they see Nnamdi Kanu's picture on TV, a lot of people will start wondering what is even the offense. Just as I said now, initially, yes. So justice must be in a way that it seeks to prevent others from doing that. So it must be, yes, it must be timely.
Okay, now back to our program, Destiny, the topic of today. I mean, it appears we have reduced death numbers to just numbers. I mean, yes, because when I was conducting a little research about this program, I said, okay, let me see from January. I just listed what came up. For instance, on January 5, 6 soldiers and 34 militants killed during Boko Haram ambush in Damboa. This was in Borno. Then on the 13th, 40 farmers killed by suspected Boko Haram in Doba. Then 20 civilians killed by Boko Haram on Gadangari. Then Iswap suicide bomber killed 27 soldiers in Malapatori. And then 8 killed in roadside bomb along Damboa. This is just Borno. Now when you go to Yobe, 11 soldiers killed by Iswap when they raided military formation. In fact, This happened on May 4. It was even today that the governor visited. Go to Zamfara. 16 civilians killed in accidental military airstrike. Now, go to Katsina. 21 members of Katsina Community Watch Corps were killed by bandits. Then Goska, Dankarami, and 100 militants were killed in military operation. Now go to Plateau. 48 killed in intercommunal attacks. Then 40 killed in suspected harder attack or ZKO. This is just Plateau. When you go to Benue, on April 18, 56 people killed in harder-led attack on local communities. Who is innocent? Who is the villain here?
You see, I think your chronicle on the death or the killing so far, you've excluded Edo State. There's a boundary community between the neighboring local government to my local government, that is Ovia Southwest and Ovia Northeast in Edo State. There was a time that the herders they finished the whole community. I think at that instance, it's a settlement. They recorded about 58 deaths. 58 at a single strike by herders. That's not, it's not part of your records.
If I am to come, maybe I will
I'm coming, sir. Go to Edo North.
Yes.
The Auchi, the Aganibode Aziz of Edo State. You heard some time ago, if I'm not mistaken, last 2 months, when Oshomole, the senator representing Edo North, cried out before the Red Chamber that he's looking for help on how to minimize.
And remember, it is in the same Edo State that
definitely
young people from the north.
Yes, in Edo State, in Uromi, about 16 of them. That they were
so that is why
to be hunters.
And then we have seen an instance here where it is military strike that killed. Then we have seen an ambush by Boko Haram or whatever we call them, killing military operators. So who is the villain? Who is the innocent?
You see, the problem is this. I keep on saying this. Any society that recompenses defective deportment fabricates a moral peril that will erode that society. Our security formations, with utmost humility, they have failed us. They have failed us woefully. Not with the exception of my brother. They have failed us. The problem is this.
Yes.
You see, oftentimes, I listened to him just now. This year alone budget on security is about 4 point something. If I'm not mistaken.
I think he has some.
This is about 4 point something.
Real out.
I tell you, how much is being dispersed in fighting? You've been deployed in fighting this insecurity. Your guess is as good as mine.
Maybe you should come in.
The problem is this.
Is it about not managing the resources meant to curtail some of these atrocities, or the whole conflicts across the country have been now weaponized? They have become war economy of sort.
So it's a mix of all. The fact that we have for quite a long time, more than a decade, we've been in a kind of an economy that there's a really economy ongoing, but there's the underground economy that oils this type of issues that we're talking about. And my fear is that we keep talking about the lack of resources. And I dare say that sometimes it's not just resources as we mean in terms of money that is the problem. Yes, resources, if we look at the entire definition of what resources could be, that's human and material. Yes, we can have that. So like I keep saying, and I've said it several times, that we don't have the numbers in terms of security personnel that is required.
But technology has changed. If you go to some places, what 100 or even 1,000 troops are expected to do if you deploy the right technology?
Definitely.
You just need maybe 10 or 12 or 20.
So in terms of security and law and order, security is an enabler. It doesn't replace the numbers. Now there's a minimum that you should have before security can now enable and amplify what you're doing. And if you look at a lot of operations that have gone in other places involving very high-tech militaries, like we say in the United States and Afghanistan, there was the time that they had to increase the surge, they called it. you have to increase the number. If you go as far
on ground in military balance.
Yes. If you go back as far as the Civil War, you have to increase recruitment. You have to increase and training. So numbers are key. It's behind that technology are humans. Now you have to improve those humans in terms of their number, in terms of their capacity and capability. Then technology plays the next role, which is to amplify, to multiply what they're doing. Now, in our situation, we have seen that the entirety of the military, we're talking of about a figure of 300,000, out of a population of more than 240 million, out of the landmass that we have, out of the problems that we are having. So if you combine the entire military, police, and so on and so forth, maybe you're talking about 1 million out of 240 million. So there is the issue of inadequacy in that number.
Even in terms of ratio.
Yes, in terms of ratio. Then even that number, again, then you find out that the application or the utilization of that number is not done in a way that it really shows that we have a problem at hand and we're trying to solve it. Now, how many numbers of, or the police, let's take for example the police, are attached to VIPs in towns, in cities? And even when you go to the military and so on, you find out that we are over-engaged in the military in duties that are purely civilian in nature and that are supposed to be done by the police. Now you have a military that's already stretched or overstretched in all theaters of operation. Out of that, you're now taking them to be performing pure civilian functions. Now, how do you get the number that is going to be deployed to the front, the number that is going to be on standby so that there is rotation, or the number that so that when there is the need to be for, that you are able to do that? So we have to also look at the deployment of those resources that we have. Then when it comes to maybe budgetary allocations and so on, you find out that it's not the lack of budgetary allocation vis-a-vis or proportionate to our budget. You find the last 2025, the proposal was about 4.196 trillion. No, given the size of our budget, that is much.
Okay, you should actually yield something.
Significant results. What I am thinking or what I'm suggesting is that there must be more oversight, more accountability, more judicious use of that meager resources, so that the resources that is channeled into that is seen to be doing what it ought to be doing.
Destiny, where is the money going in your estimation?
Your guess is as good as mine again. You see, I think he has said it all, but let me quickly say this. The issue is not whether we don't have enough resources. We have. And the approach and the manner of deploying the resources is a problem. I tell you for free, there are instances, I've read somewhere, that even 2/3 of the money that is being allocated to fight this crime go to private pockets.
Not to the real.
Not to the real issue. Again, he said something just now. How many of these security formations, whether the police, the DSS, the Navy, are truly protecting the people? They're not protecting the people, they are protecting the ruling elites. So at the end of the day, if you try to look at the statistics that are available, the numbers that are available, that is protecting the interest of the larger interest of this country, they are minute, they are small. So they are overwhelmed, and they are not technology. Let's assume, for instance, Abuja, to very precise, let's use Abuja. But now we want to have CCTV. Abuja alone, where you have some few men manning and monitoring the signal from this CCTV.
While the boats can move.
Exactly. But today they are nowhere to be found.
They were stolen.
Well, at a point, we learned that the money will be budgeted for CCTV, and it was allocated to one, whether former first lady, or I don't know, one of the former first ladies. Nobody asked questions. He talked about the issue of accountability, which is key in a democratic setting like this.
Okay, well, Commander, what about misallocation? Because I heard it somewhere in passing that even after the budget, instead of procuring very simple tools that will help, because we are not talking about internal security, but then those at the helm of affairs go for the elephant thing. For instance, somebody told me that almost all those Tucanos that we are procured, they are not being deployed because they feel that they don't really need to deploy them. They've started deploying them here and there. Do you think that there is actually misapplication of some of these funds just for the contracting, then you service the boys, you take the large chunk and then move on?
So I read somewhere someone was complaining about the leadership that we have, and someone told him that the leaders are from amongst us.
Definitely.
So the military, the police, or whatever, and also they might be slightly above, more accountable, and so on. But by and large, they're from our system. So you find out that we have a system that glorifies white elephant projects. A system that ensures that projects are just done for
the contract side, yes.
For the immediate gain that would be. Not necessarily because there has been need analysis that is taken and conducted and they found out that this is it. And yes, so there is a lot of misplaced priority and what word did you
use? As someone who served in the Air Force. Now, do we need to of course, I know maybe for status symbol, we can buy them if we have all the other apparatus and all that. But at the time they were procured, do you think we should deploy those resources for Tucano instead of maybe for AK-47, for headgear, for fragmented jacket, for bullets and all that, and then even the welfare of our security operatives?
So there is not a mutually exclusive issues.
Okay.
Super Tucanos at the time they were purchased, and even up to today, are best suited for the type of warfare that we're fighting. Of course, in addition to other platforms like helicopters and so on and so forth. But the Super Tucanos are not the problem. We needed them because they were. If you remember when we started this conflict in 2009, all that we had were the Alpha jets and so on. They were too fast. They could not engage. They were because the threat analysis was such that we were looking at other countries, other air forces fighting us. So we're looking at how you can maintain air superiority and so on and so forth. Now, what we got, or the type of challenge that we had, was people carrying AK-47, moving in the bushes and killing people one after the other. So completely different. So if you look at from a fast jet to the Super Tucanos, it means that we have understood what the problem is, that we needed something that was slower, something that could hover, not really hover, but go slowly, identify a target and engage. We needed that. We needed a weapon that would be able to fight in the night. It had night vision capability and so on and so forth. So the Super Tucanos at that time were the right platforms that we needed. And really, this type of warfare, there is nothing that makes it more on your side than if you have the technology of air power. Air power has the capacity to hover up without the enemy seeing you, without,
and then and all that.
They only see. So if we have intelligence capability, the ability to maybe ISR, that's surveillance systems, which the Air Force acquired, the Nigeria acquired that, so that we are able to hover over a particular area for a long time to understand the pattern of movement, the logistics, identify the logistics that these people are gathering, identify when they are moving, so that when they move, you engage them. When you capture, when some of them were debriefed after being captured, their worst nightmare was air power. So therefore, which means we have to look at the issue of how do we apply air power. In fact, I have a very unpopular thinking that actually we must be air power driven in all those theaters. What do I mean? The Air Force should lead.
That is your thinking.
Yes, that's my thinking.
Yeah, because you have the Air Force background.
No, not because I have the Air Force background, but because that is what you need, the preponderance of the, yes, you need boots on the ground, you need no doubt about that, and that's why I talked about numbers. But in terms of coordinating the onslaught, in terms of ensuring that you hit the right targets, you pick the right targets, that you deploy assets, air assets to their maximum capacity, then you need to ensure that there's an air-minded thinking brought into that operation.
All right, Destiny, beyond the military prowess and all that, do you think we have the political will are our politicians really ready to drive this process so that we can have peace in Nigeria?
Let me quickly say this. You see, our system of government again is faulty. I must be very frank with you. Every crime all over the world is local. The question you ask me, how effective are we in the local setting, in the local government? There need to be intelligence gathering from the local people to the state and to the center.
But somebody.
But again, there is a lacuna between the local and the state and even the federal government. There's a serious lacuna. Even the local government administration, as we speak very just now, is comatose among the 774
so there is
LGAs.
a disconnect.
There is a disconnect, serious disconnect. So until we empower and enhance the local system, that's the local government, we will just be rigmaroling. That is the gospel truth.
Well, Commander, what will you say on this? Whether our political leaders, are they really, do they really understand? Are they prepared before they take this mantle of leadership? Because some people tend to think that it's like a guesswork. That
Well, Hamza, I try to avoid political answers, but however, because we are all in this, the truth is that our leadership recruitment process is faulty. Whether you're using in terms of party structures, when you look at how elections are conducted, the primaries from the parties up to what throws out the candidates the options that
you once contested, right?
Yes.
How was it? Because we are talking about really getting the right people there.
Well, it's a lot of education on itself. It's a complete education, and if you've never contested, it's so difficult to. Well, he was a former lawmaker.
That's for 6 months. For 6 months.
So I guess he's in a better position to do. However, what I realize is that we need to do a lot of engagement. Everyone has to get involved. Now, what we're doing is to think that party politics should be for just, sorry to say, but kind of the lowest of the low in our society, especially at the local level. Now, I want to encourage that everybody gets involved, because whether we like it or not, it's the party that throws up the candidates that will be available for election. Now, look at it this way. If the delegates, let's just look at the last general election.
2023, yeah.
There was the issue of the delegates. You ask yourself, who are those delegates? How did we arrive at who we nominated as the delegates? Now, if you don't pay attention to the delegates that are being nominated, I tell you that the outcome of those delegates' choice you might not have the best around, because until you look at the quality of the delegates that you're pushing out there, the delegates will come, whether it's, let me tell you, from the ward level or from the polling unit. If you have up to from the ward level, you get delegates from there who are now going to elect
local government.
The contestants, or is it the candidates for every party from the member of assembly or even the councillor up to the president. Remember in Eagle Square or wherever these parties held their elections, we saw delegates line up to elect who was going to be our candidate for election. Now we sit back. That's when I say we, all of us are guilty. Those that feel they are either gainfully employed or they are a kind of elite or middle class, and so everybody sits back. But once a result that looks like representative of the average Nigerian, that's the average Nigerian that is educated, the average Nigerian that knows more about what is happening and that can hold people accountable. The delegates that elect those people, if they are not people that can look away when they are made offers, then definitely the system is going to be corrupt, the system will be manipulated, and the system will be such that it throws up candidates that we might not want at the end of the day.
And
so
not deliver.
What I want, or what I'm calling, is that there is need for everyone to get involved. Go pick up your card, register as a member of a political party, and so that when we are searching for delegates, because you can't be a delegate if you are not a member of a political party as it stands today. And until you are there, then you cannot participate in the in the election or in the leadership recruitment process.
Okay, let me quickly add. It's an addendum. You see, he said something. I think he has laid the foundation. See, we got it all wrong from the very beginning of the dispensation, from 1999. Because
how do you mean? Yes,
many of us, especially the well-read among us in the academia, the businessmen, they thought that the military were going to hand over. So they lay back. Permit me to use this word. The never do wells in our midst occupy the space. And as to speak very justly, it is difficult for the likes of you to not have
to penetrate
the
somebody who has something to.
Exactly. It is difficult. That's where we find ourselves now. It's a serious quagmire. So getting in is difficult.
So as we wrap up, do you think the present administration of Tinubu is giving the security situation the desired attention, or they are preoccupied with the economy? This should be less than 1 minute, please.
You are putting me on the hot seat again. But I must say this,
yes,
without fear or favor. I tell you for free, again, as we speak, you and I know that they've already started campaigning for 2027. When in every state of this country, there are insecurity, there are killings, left, right, center. In Edo, where he's from, as I speak, even this afternoon,
somebody was killed.
Was killed as a result of court-related issue in the city center. So they are not even in the governor of the state now set up a campaign team for Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu when there are serious issues at hand. So what they are concerned with now is not the security of you and I.
So
it's how to secure.
There is disconnect.
There is serious disconnect. They are not disturbed.
They are detached.
They are not concerned. Their concern now is their interest in 2027. They don't care whether you and I is being consumed by Boko Haram or whatever. What they want to secure. That is why you see left, right, center. There are days of defections, the camping, left, right, center.
Are you on the same page finally from you, Will Commander? Are they really aware of the problem? I listed just few states, but they are numbers.
Well, no doubt government is aware, and because you can hear from statements, you can hear from policies and so on and so forth. But what I want to draw all our attention is that we're in this, all of us.
Yeah.
And if we allow these bubbles of safety and security to continue, what I mean by bubble is that those that are in privileged position, they are protected by a few or a sense of false security. It doesn't all go well for everyone. We have to work hard to ensure that there is the semblance of security for everyone, and that everybody feels secure in a way that they can go about their legitimate businesses everywhere. And that calls on everyone, those that are either in the executive, the legislature, and even those, the judiciary and the citizens. Everybody has, all hands must be on deck, and everybody has to discharge their responsibility effectively. Lastly, there must be oversight in terms of use of resources, both human and material.
All right. Let me quickly say this.
Yes, we have run out.
The body language of our elites, of those in those privileged class, matters a lot. They send a lot of signal. I tell you, just those state election, for instance.